Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the April 28th regular business board meeting. Before we get started, I just want to mention that I had the good fortune of attending at least part of the GLAM conference that happened on Saturday. So that's the Girls Leadership Conference, and it was fantastic. And I just want to thank Doug Young for all of his leadership. And I know there's a lot of other people involved as well, but my understanding was that this was your idea, so we really appreciate that. And I think, we're looking forward to seeing that maybe become institutionalized as we move forward. So it was really fantastic. Thank you. Dr. McGinley?
Thank you. We begin this evening with several presentations, and the first is from the principal of Welsh Valley Middle School, Mr. Christopher Hall.
Good evening, everyone.
Welcome.
Great. Okay. Really excited to have this opportunity this evening to talk with you a little bit about some of the exciting things going on at Welsh Valley, and to briefly orient you to some of the beautiful artwork that's on display outside thanks to our awesome art teachers. So to start off, I'm going to talk with you a little bit about what I consider to be our North Star, and that's the really big, broad goal of ensuring that each and every student at Welsh Valley experiences a tremendous amount of academic, social, and emotional growth. While many traditional schools focus only on the academic and academic measures, traditional academic measures, we've been really pushing ourselves this year to try to think about how we can develop our young people socially and emotionally as well. And so while the IQ, the intelligence quotient, is really traditionally easily measured, we've been pushing ourselves to figure out how we can give students feedback on that EQ, on the emotional intelligence, the emotional quotient as well. So to do this, we looked right in our backyard, and Dr. Martin Seligman leads the Positive Psychology Center at UPenn, and we were really kind of fascinated by his research around the 24 character strengths. And as a faculty last spring, we took a look at the 24, and we asked the faculty to think about which of these 24 character strengths, you see some of them listed here on this slide, they felt really well positioned to develop in our young people. They identified 8 of the ones that they were most passionate about, and we've been looking to augment our form advisory lessons with some proactive lesson plans on those 8 character strengths. Things like open-mindedness, things like gratitude, things like persistence. And when we began to think about persistence, we fortunately, because we live in Lower Merion and are so fortunate to have community members that are so astute, we recognize that as recently as last school year, Dr. Angela Duckworth had children in the district at Belmont Hills. And so we reached out to her through a current Welsh Valley parent, and she was gracious enough to agree to come speak to our faculty. It was a fantastic learning experience. She came and spoke to our entire faculty. We had folks from BC, and even some board members were able to come as well. Thank you for attending. And she initiated some awesome dialogue around how we can help young people develop resilience, grit, and also self-control. But her visit was really sort of like the gift that keeps on giving, because our relationship that we've been fostering with her has led us to connect us with the work that she's doing through the Duckworth Lab. Some of you know that she's a MacArthur Genius Fellow, and through some of the funding she's received, she's been able to facilitate a speaker series, and she's really brought in some heavy hitters into Philadelphia. So over the course of 3 different Sunday afternoons, our administrative team at Welsh Valley has had the opportunity to venture over to UPenn and engage with some of the authors and speakers that she's brought into the region. So we met and heard directly from Dr. Timothy Wilson, who's at the University of Virginia. He talked a great deal about a technique that he uses called story editing, which is helping young people reframe in a more positive way the way that they look at adverse situations. So really, really empowering stuff. We got a free copy of the book as well. We also heard from Amanda Ripley, who wrote The Smartest Kids in the World. Many of you have heard of this book. It's a book where she tells the story of the educational systems in South Korea, in Finland, and in one other country as well, and compares them to the United States. And so during this talk, she talked with us about some of the insights that she took away from her research through the lens of 3 different high school students that were experiencing those countries' educational systems through an exchange program. We also heard directly from Jim Stigler, who talked about some of the best practices used around the world. This was a really fascinating talk as well, and allowed us to reflect on some of our mathematics instruction specifically. Many of you know Grant Wiggins, who's well known for backwards planning and understanding by design. We just heard from him actually yesterday. He visited the Talks for Teachers series, and he talked a lot about giving students feedback on their attempts to develop strong character strengths. So really, really good stuff as well. Some of you know Carol Dweck's work. She was not present. However, many of the researchers that are proteges of hers were present. This gentleman, Greg Walton, talked about some really, really fascinating research they've been doing in schools, so practical stuff. And I want to just share an example with you. So I'll tell you about this study briefly. This was a study done where middle school students were given back an essay that they had written with lots of red marks on it, lots of feedback. And the study was designed to collect some evidence on some ways that they might be able to positively influence the likelihood that the children would, within the course of a week, decide to revise their essay and actually work on their weaknesses. And so the control group was given some neutral feedback, really simply what you see on this slide. They were given this essay really marked up with some really tough criticism, and they were just told in a really neutral way, we're giving you these comments because we want to give you feedback. And the treatment group was given what was considered wise feedback by the end of this study. These teachers really explicitly said, I'm giving you these comments because I have really high expectations for you, and I have the utmost confidence that you can meet them. And what I'm about to show you is the difference between the control group and the treatment group. So after a week, this is the percentage of students in these 2 demographic groups that chose to revise their essay. Pretty compelling. So that control group is shaded in gray. They were given the neutral feedback. The group that was given what was considered to be wise feedback, that were communicated about high expectations and that assurance. I mean, look at the difference. I mean, it's just remarkable. So this is directly aligned with what we've been trying to do at Welsh Valley in terms of increasing the likelihood that our students would be willing to face challenges and take risks and work hard to develop themselves and perpetually grow. So really exciting stuff. We brought that right back. I'm also excited to tell you that other than some of the authors that spoke, we were able to connect with some awesome educators. So this gentleman, some of you may know, I don't know. His name is Scott Barry Kaufman. He's actually a Lower Merion High School graduate. Really, really exciting, even younger than me. He has been teaching for the last 5 years at NYU, teaching psychology there. He's the author of this book called Ungifted. He was proud to tell me that he's a Bala Cynwyd Middle School graduate and a Lower Merion High School graduate. And he has recently, in this past year, been hired to lead what will be called the Imagination Institute at UPenn. So a brand new institute where he will be charged with researching and studying creativity and innovation, engagement and motivation in young people, directly aligned to some of the things we're interested in learning about. So we already have a date on the books to go and connect with him this summer, to go take him out to lunch and see what we can learn from him. So transitioning a little bit to the art, speaking of creativity, there's some great art on display. And really briefly, I'll tell you about just 2 projects. One of them is the Zentangle Inspired Animals project. And that's the art out there that looks like this. And it's really interesting because in addition to some of the more traditional things that our art teachers work on with students around use of patterns and, and sketching, you can see the Zentangle philosophy there. Really, really interesting. So our art teachers talk about this particular art form as an opportunity to relieve stress. And that's something that our parents have been telling us they'd like to empower students with some more strategies around. And so this was a really interesting project. It sort of served dual purposes in terms of that social emotional wellness and an appreciation for art in other cultures. That's another example. And then The second project I'll tell you about is one where students had choice. So some of you know Robert Indiana as the artist who developed the Love sculpture. And so for this project, Jackie Cassidy had her students choose to do one of two different types of Robert Indiana inspired portraits. So one could be something really similar to the Love sculpture. And then the other was an identity portrait, which looked a little bit something like this. And you can see that this piece is a good deal more intricate and more advanced than this other one, which led to some really interesting discussions when our art teachers conferenced directly with individual students, because some of the advanced students did not choose to take on this more robust, comprehensive project, which caused our art teachers to have a conference with them and try to, probe and find out why that might be. Our goal being to try to really send the message to our young people that they ought to be taking intellectual risks and pushing themselves and challenging themselves optimally every single day. Led to some really, really good and interesting discussions. And really, really proud to say that our faculty has really been holding each other accountable this year for modeling that for students as well. So just yesterday, I had a faculty member make reference to the Angela Duckworth presentation, and a sixth grade teacher, and he said, I'm still left after that discussion with Dr. Duckworth thinking I need to become a little bit more gritty. So I'm really proud to say my faculty is taking some of the ideas to heart personally, which I think is really important. And this is something we've talked about, this quote, we've talked about with the faculty quite a bit over the course of the spring. This idea that the best way we can teach students is to model what we want to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Any questions from the board about this evening's presentation?
Thank you very much.
Okay. You left the podium, so I guess you wanted no questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hall.
And please thank the art teachers and other people who have contributed to the report. Thank you. Next, we have a bond report, Mr. Twaddell and Mr. Williard.
Good evening. I'm Glenn Williard with PFM. You have a green document at your workstation. Just walk you through that quickly. The first page shows you the history of interest rates and how we've been doing over the last year or so, followed by 4 pages of your Moody's credit rating report. As part of this bond issue, we needed to have the bonds rated. We went through that process. They interviewed your business official and confirmed your AAA rating, which is the highest rating possible. So that's very good. So there's very few bonds in the marketplace today, so to be able to offer some that with the highest credit rating helps in the process. On page number 6, this is the results of the internet bidding that occurred this afternoon. R.W. Baird is the winning bidder based on their true interest cost, which is shown in column number 2. So it's a 2.37 for a roughly 11-year bond issue, followed by 4 other firms who have bid on your bonds in the past. At the bottom of this page, it does mention that the bonds were sold with your ability to redeem them early in 5 years, should you choose to do so. Page 7 shows the timeline of how these bids came in during the course of the day. There were 29 different bids submitted by these 5 syndicates. Page number 8 is what you're being asked to approve. This has all the terms and conditions of R.W. Baird in it. It shows the maturity schedule on the left. Column number 4 are the yields on these different maturities. They range from a low of 0.3% for the first maturity, which is about a year and a half from now, on up to a 2.35 for the bonds maturing November of 2025. This is about $800,000 in interest less than what we had shown you over the past couple of months as we were planning for this, so we got very good results. And it shows up in the millage equivalent yield way over on the right in column number 12, just a fraction of a mil. Page 9 is the cost of issuance, the original issue premium and discounts on the bonds. And then page number 10 is a snapshot of all the debt of the district and shows your annual payments at around $27,950,000 per year. Do you have any questions? Everything's in order from a financial standpoint, and we'd recommend you proceed with the transaction. Any questions? Yes.
Thanks, Glenn. Just a quick question. So the interest rate that we were able to get through the auction was better than we expected, is that correct?
Yeah, roughly called 0.5% or so than what we've been budgeting.
So, and how much does that correspond to roughly?
A little bit over $800,000 over the life of the issue.
Great, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay.
Okay. Now the resolution.
Thank you. Good evening. David Twaddell from the law firm of Rhodes and Simon. We work with your financial team as bond counsel. The action item for you this evening is this resolution, familiar to many of you, although this time it is for a capital borrowing. The purpose of this borrowing, of course, is to provide part of the funding needed for primarily the middle school improvements. By your adoption of this resolution, you would be accepting the purchase contract from Baird and Company that Mr. Williard has just outlined. Your acceptance this evening by adoption of the resolution does make that a binding contract on both sides. Settlement for the issue, the exchange of the bonds for the proceeds of the bonds will occur about 30 days from now, but if you accept the contract tonight, it is fixed and those interest rates are locked in. So any change in interest rates is at the risk of Baird and Company. We have set forth in Exhibit A to the resolution the estimated total project costs certainly exceed this bond issue. We expect the district may need to be back in the market to complete those projects. The resolution authorizes the filing with the Department of Community and Economic Development of all the necessary items to secure their approval for the district to incur this debt. It does authorize I should mention for the record, your consideration of this resolution to incur debt was advertised in advance of this meeting. If you act in favor of the resolution tonight, there will be a post-enactment advertisement that will appear in the paper that will advise your constituents of the size of the bond issue, the price for it, and the range of interest rates. All of that gets filed with DCED where it reposes for about 20 days, after which we can conduct settlement for the issue. We do authorize the establishment of a construction fund because all of the proceeds for the issue will be delivered to the district at settlement about a month from now. Be happy to answer any questions about the resolution, its content, or the process for incurring debt.
I'd like to actually do the resolution after public comment, if
Certainly.
that's okay. We'll do that
Absolutely.
shortly, so, but if people have questions right now that they'd like to ask. No, okay.
Thank you very much.
So, and this issue was discussed at the Finance Committee meeting earlier, prior. So this is a kind of a follow-up. And while this is a great outcome, the complete discussion took place on another date.
Okay. Just one other thing, we did also, at the March 17th board meeting, Mr. Willard did give a presentation to the general public also.
Okay. All right. So next, Mr. Orlando, is your proposed final budget presentation?
We're going to do
On the bond issue?
We're going to do it.
We're going to take public comment after Mr. Orlando's presentation.
We're going to do it during audience recognition.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Well, tonight we're presenting the 2014 proposed final budget. Let me just kind of go over the budget schedule, see where we're at this point in time. The governor presented his proposed budget on February 4th. So we're still waiting to see what is the outcome of that budget. Really, is not a lot of news that's been regarding, so I can't provide you any more information. We're still waiting to see about potential bills to change the special ed funding. We're also waiting to see whether or not the Ready to Learn portion will be passed and whether or not there's any type of pension reform. So that's still pending. At this time, we don't really have any additional information to give you. The preliminary budget was approved on February 18th by the Rules of Act 1. It was required to be approved by February 19th. If you recall, at that time, the budget was $234,620,559, which called for a shortfall to be funded at a 4.11% tax increase. We did submit, and the board did approve, the referendum exceptions, the PDE, by March 6th. They were the retirement contribution and the special ed exception. They were approved by PDE on March 26th. So the preliminary budget with a tax increase of 4.11% would be within the Act 1 law. That brings us to this evening, the proposed final budget approval. Act 1 requires 30 days prior to the final budget adoption to approve and have public a proposed final budget, which is why we're doing it this evening. Unfortunately, the February 19th does not give us enough days for the June 9th final budget approval. And again, the board can at any point in time change the budget up until the final approval. Okay, so some of these charts may look a little familiar to you. We have on the left the current budget, and then in the middle column is the preliminary budget, and then all the way to the right is the proposed budget. So as you can see, most of the columns are the same. However, we did make a couple adjustments. If you look at the realty transfer tax, we did increase that revenue budget by $150,000. And we're going to talk about a couple other changes we made, which brought the real estate tax rate down, and also the amount of revenue by $372,000 roughly. Under the state sources, again, we're still waiting to hear from the governor and the Commonwealth as to what the state funding is, but this is what we know as of right now. All the way to the right, we did increase the basic instructional subsidy. That 3.497 figure is what we are held harmless and will receive this year and for the upcoming year. So we did adjust that figure by $122,000 roughly. If you do look at I guess if we go down about 7 items, the state property tax reduction allocation, and you can see we have a 3.473 million figure in for this year, and you can see the other two columns are blank. On April 15th, the Secretary of Budget did declare a distribution from the state property tax fund. We are waiting. Typically in early May, we'll find out what that distribution is to Lower Merion. Historically, it's been around $220, $221 to the homestead. So that's our expectation going forward for this budget.
So just for clarification, that's money that goes to the property owner, not to the district?
Well, what happens is
so if we have 3.4 million, it's not going to all of a sudden change our...
It's not going to change anything, correct. Yeah, you'll see a homestead reduction in your assessed value, which will reduce the amount of monies, and then we'll get that money from the state. So there's no change. It won't change the numbers that are here, unfortunately. So looking at that far column, the total revenues then are decreased by roughly $100,000, $234,520,559. On the expenditure side, we did adjust one column under other some operational costs that we were able to reduce by $100,000. So you can see the shortfall, which was $7.52 million, now is 7.15. So it's roughly a $372,000 decrease. It did bring the millage rate increase from a little over a mil to just under over 0.95. So the tax increase in the preliminary budget was 4.11. The proposed final budget is 3.9, and our expenditures decrease slightly. So what is driving the increase, that shortfall of $7 million? Our enrollment growth, we've talked about this last year and this year, roughly about 1% of that 3.9 increase is due to enrollment growth. We have 16 additional positions. We have additional educational materials that we added into the budget this year. We are in the final year of our collective bargaining agreements, and those current salaries will increase about $3 million over this year. And then the retirement contribution, PSERS, as it's known, will increase 26%. So it's going from 16.93 up to 21.4. So it's roughly almost a $6 million increase in our expenditures due to that increase. Special education programs, we're still seeing that is increasing above the index, roughly at a 3 to 4% clip. The index is only 2.1. Most of our revenues, we are seeing, again, the real estate transfers are increasing, so that's a good sign. However, interest rates are historically low. I'm sure everybody can see that in their own investment earnings, so we're really at historical lows. And we don't know if there's going to be an increase in the state funding, and we've received really no increase of the federal funding.
Excuse me, Vic?
Yeah.
If you can go back one, the PEASers, that came from the 26% to state.
That is correct. The PEASers Board of Directors in December will certify that rate. So last year, I believe it was like a 37% increase. This year's a 26% increase. And I think the chart, if you look at it, on the top of my head, I think somewhere in the next, I think it's around 33 or 32, it's going to top to around like 34, 35%. So we'll have to see. That is one of the issues that has been raised by the governor is pension reform because of the impact it is having on education for the different school districts. So we'll have to see if there's any type of pension reform. There was some talk or proposal last year. Obviously, nothing happened. It was never approved. We'll have to see if there's any type of pension reform that goes through this year. So looking at the increase for a medium household assessment, just slightly over $250,000. The tax increase was $239. In the preliminary budget, it was $251. So that is kind of a quick overview of where we're at with the proposed final budget, and I'll open up to any questions by the board.
Lori?
Hi, thanks very much. Can you provide us and I guess the public a little more context about how our situation compares to other school districts in Montgomery County in terms of growth and our budget?
Yeah, as far as growth, I don't see districts are seeing the type of growth that we're seeing from enrollment purposes. A lot of my colleagues are amazed that we're increasing or adding so many positions. They're not experiencing the same type of enrollment growth. I think they did in years past, but that's kind of dried up. As far as other districts, I can tell you preliminarily there was about 6 or so districts that of the 18 that I know about were higher than our rate of 4.11. I don't know what other circumstances are. Obviously, a lot of people are dealing with some revenue issues and things of that nature. Obviously, PEASers is a big hit to, I think, most districts, as is special education. But that's what I can just tell you for where we're at right now.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Vic. Can you just talk a little bit about public comment? Has there been any to date, and how does the public interact going forward from here?
Has there been any public comment? I've seen a couple of individuals ask me, but not really much public comment. I mean, I believe everything will be posted on our website. If you go to the front page of the website, we do have the 14-15 budget. Any of our presentations, all our documents, all our presentations, everything that we submit to PDE is posted there, so anybody from the public can view that on our website.
Right. I would just add that we did receive through community comments comments when we first went out with the 4.11 with the preliminary budget. Those were forwarded to the board, and they were a small number. I mean, certainly less than 7, and of people who were critical of the tax increase being as high as it was, and reminding the district that they needed to be fiscally responsible, to put it nicely. But we haven't until tonight really talked at an evening meeting. Well, the finance committee meeting, we did talk about this. So I'm not sure how much attention people have paid. But that's really it. Now I would expect that after this evening, depending on what's shared in the press or online, there may be some additional comments.
I just want to highlight a couple things that we talked about at the Finance Committee meeting that are germane to this conversation.
Vic, please correct me if I state this wrong. But our enrollment growth, which is unique amongst, as you mentioned earlier, amongst most of our peer districts, accounts for about 1% of the increase. So instead of the 3.9% increase, if we hadn't had the enrollment and were more typical of the other districts around us, it'd be more like a 2.9% increase, right? Correct. So, and that includes the fact that 26% increase in our PSERS district and a 3.5% to 4% increase in special ed.
Correct.
So
and maintaining all of our current programs.
And maintaining our programs. So while none of us likes, to ask for a tax increase, I think we have worked very hard to try and maintain our programming while still addressing our enrollment growth and staying within our limitations. So I just want to thank you for the efforts that you and the rest of the administration made towards working as hard as you could to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vic. A question for you regarding what we've had in the past couple years, the Accountability Block Grant. Is that something we can expect? I know we've used it in the past to support student programs, and just curious in terms of if the governor is going to approve something like that for
Well, the
districts.
Accountability Block Grant is now part of the Ready to Learn.
Okay.
So the $65,000 roughly, it's actually $65,672, but that $65,000 is going to be incorporated with some other funds. I think the total allocation proposed is $337,000.
Okay.
But it's all now lumped together under the Ready to Learn, and I can't tell you how it's
So we
going to
don't
play
know
out.
what
We
we
don't
might
know
get.
yet. The same thing happened this past year. We didn't know to the very end when they passed the budget. The funds went through, and we used that for the after-school program to fund that. So again, if that happens, that's kind of found money, but we would need additional expenses, so it's not something you can use to supplant.
Right.
But if that did come up, then we would have
So
resources.
will we know that by June?
No,
No.
sorry.
When he's ready to tell
By
us,
July,
right?
hopefully.
Right, by
But
July.
I can't, I mean, I wish I could tell you yes, but it's probably going to go down to to the wire again.
Okay.
So we won't really know. But I think there's been some push over the years to have some of that accountability block grant, which initially was going to be eliminated 100%. And I think $100 million came back in, and that's the way it's been the last couple of years. So I'm sure there'll be some type of push to probably secure that, at least that same level. But I'm putting kind of words out there, I hope, yeah.
Just one quick clarification, Vic, if you don't mind.
Sure.
The PSERS, right, that our contribution is the state tells us what that is, right? That's not something we can decide we want to contribute more 1 year or less. That's a fixed cost.
That is correct. The PSERS Board of Trustees in December, so December of 2013, they'll set the rate for the upcoming school year. So, yes, you have no say in what that number is. That is established by the Board of Trustees.
Are there other questions or comments? No, again, Vic, thank you very much, and I echo Diane on behalf of the entire board. We appreciate your efforts and the rest of the administration's efforts to develop a responsible budget.
Okay.
No? I can't see what you're doing. I apologize. I wanted to just go over a couple of dates. Mr. Orlando already talked about the proposed final budget, which we're asking you to consider this evening, consider for approval this evening as a proposed budget. And also note that that final budget gets approved June 9th. So our practice has been to get to that approval. I don't know what you're doing. Get to that approval prior to the close of the school year. So June 9th is that budget timeline. This is always a very busy time of year for the school district because of budgeting in general. This year we had the addition of construction projects that you're going to be hearing more about and considering. We're also deeply involved in the strategic planning process. And my bodyguard will show some dates there. If we get to it. There we are. Okay, so on the first slide. And I just really wanted to note a couple of those things. Tonight, there is a special education plan approval, and there was a public comment period, and we received some public comments relative to the plan. We also received some comments after the plan, and we are continuing to address those concerns, but we are asking you to approve the special education plan this evening. Ms. Savage reviewed that at our last meeting. Also, May 5th is the District Steering Committee meeting, a full day. This is under Dr. Marseille's leadership, the strategic planning process, and we have a deadline of May 7th for the online surveys. And if you haven't taken an opportunity to look at the online surveys, they're very comprehensive, and they address a number of issues, including online learning, student stress, extracurricular activities and their match to student interests, standardized testing, and also school start time. So we've had a number of thoughtful questions embedded in that survey so that we get input from across the district. And I'm going to ask Dr. Marseille just to comment on how many people we've heard from thus far and some recent meetings that you've had.
Sure. We're really excited with our turnout, especially yesterday at Lower Merion High School cafeteria from 2:30 to 5:30, where we had our largest number of parents show up and participate in the open forum session. To date, with regards to our survey, we've had over 1,000 parents participate on that survey. The leadership team met this morning, looking through some of the conversations that have taken place through our focus group, our comments that have been forwarded to us through email, and obviously a large amount of data from the parent survey. Our student surveys have taken place. However, we're going to send out one more reminder to students. That's taking place for the high schools again on tomorrow and Wednesday, where students will be given an opportunity to complete those surveys. So our job is to, as a leadership team, try to make sense of where are the big themes that we're hearing from faculty, from students, and from the focus groups. We will share not only the big nuggets of information from those meetings with the steering committee, but the steering committee will have the raw data. So if there's 1,600 surveys or 2,000 by the time we meet with the steering committee, we will provide the steering committee with that, but also give a summary statement so they can either reference that summary statement or they're going to have a little bit of homework, and we're going to give them time to do that, to look through all those surveys.
And I would just want to commend Dr. Marseille for the work that he and the leadership team are doing. There actually was a major conversation at my dinner table on Friday night because there was a parent from here at our house for dinner, and her view was that they've never seen such outreach and such a widespread and engaging process. And I know that's difficult to manage sometimes, but I do appreciate, or all the time, but I do appreciate the work that's going on behind the strategic plan. And I also just want to mention that at the school level, we have a number of activities. I mean, every single night of the week, there's something going on at each of the high schools and usually at the middle schools as well. And then we're rapidly moving toward the end of the year with seniors finishing up and doing senior projects. And our graduations are scheduled for June 10th and 11th, Harriton June 10th and Lower Merion June 11th. The last day of school, as everyone knows, because we've talked about the calendar so many times this year, is June 20th, and then kids who go to summer school get 2 days off and come back on June 23rd, 3 days off, right? 2 days off. So for summer school and for June, the SPIES program for the younger kids and for extended school year, and yes. So there's usually a lot more time in between those two things, but we just want to remind parents that those opportunities
are there for secondary schools students, for high school students for summer school, and for elementary schools with the SPIES program, and students, the ESY programs embedded in students' IEP. So those are just a couple things moving toward the end of the school year, and I don't mean to imply with the reference to the strategic plan that that's over during this school year, because that work continues into the fall, looking for a November approval of the overall strategic plan. Okay?
Can I just ask a quick question? So you said the conclusion of information gathering is May 7th, and you had these online surveys for parents and students, and there was discussion about an online survey for alums. And I'm just wondering where we are with that.
Yeah, we're working with Doug's office to complete that. We will not have that survey by the 7th, but that information will be forwarded to the steering committee for review as well. So though the parent survey, student survey, and faculty survey have that timeline, the two additional surveys, the community survey we're going to reach out to, and the alumni survey, are surveys that will take place, and that we will provide that information to the steering committee in the coming months.
Thanks. I just wanted to add, there's a very nice new part of the Lower Merion School District website dedicated to strategic planning, and if you click on Community Survey, the online surveys are available there for anyone who still needs to take them. So if anyone gets questions, you should point them to the website where you can find the surveys.
I just wanted an answer to Diane. I believe also that Doug reported to us at the Communications Committee meeting that he has conducted a focus group with the alums, and there were 15.
That's the exec board, though, right?
Okay.
He was acknowledging there was a focus group for the Alumni Association here last week in 154, but the online survey is also something that needs to occur. Right.
Are there any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, thank you very much, Dr. McKinley. Do you have something here? Oh. Yeah. So at this time, I'd actually like to move to audience recognition on agenda items only. So we've had presentations on the budget and the bond issue and some other issues. So if there's anybody who would like to speak to those issues or any issue that's on the agenda, please come sign in with Ms. LaPera right now. There will be an opportunity at the end of the meeting to talk on non-agenda issues. So this is just to speak to agenda items. There's a 3-minute limit, and please state your name and where you live.
Hi. Okay, perfect. Hi, my name is Shirley Howe, and I'm a resident of Bala-Cynwyd. I have 3 children enrolled in the Lower Merion School District. I have 1 at Bala-Cynwyd Middle School and 2 at Cynwyd Elementary. Professionally, I hold an MSW and have extensive background in early childhood education programs and advocacy. And I'm passionate about the Pre-K for PA campaign. I first want to thank the Lower Merion School District or School Board for considering this important resolution, supporting state-funded pre-K investment implemented through public-private partnerships. To provide a bit more information, Pre-K for Pennsylvania, Pre-K for PA is a statewide pre-K initiative, not a locally funded one. And its goal is to help reduce special needs costs and close the achievement gap, because children who arrive ready for kindergarten both thrive and strengthen their classrooms and schools. I'm proud to be a part of the Lower Merion School District because we're on the cutting edge of where all Pennsylvania needs to be on this issue. And just as important, it sends a signal to all candidates running for office about the right vision for all kids in Pennsylvania. Thank you for your time and consideration of this important resolution. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Laura Morris, and I'm from Bala Cynwyd, Pennsylvania. I'm the parent of 2 children who went all the way through the school district, and I also work at Belmont Hills in the Autistic Support Program. I'd like to address the special ed plan being presented tonight, specifically behavior support. If you talk to autistic support, learning support, emotional support, and classroom teachers and staff, they would all tell you that we are in need of more behavior support to help with the increasing challenges that all of our students face. In the 14 years I've been in autistic support, we now receive significantly less support than we did when I first started. We used to have behavior therapists who came several days a week, spent time with our students in the classroom, and modeled strategies for us and with us. Now we see behavior specialists far less, and when we do, they're there to write reports, but rarely directly interact with students. There is 1 emotional support specialist now who's split between 5 of our elementary schools. There has been a very positive trend toward inclusion for most of our students in the regular ed classroom, but with that, we face new behavior challenges. Workshops and trainings regarding positive behavior strategies and theories and crisis intervention strategies that are outlined in the plan you'll hear tonight, they're all good. But they remain ideas and theories, and we need concrete behavior support advice that addresses the everyday issues that arise for many of our students, special ed, regular ed, all. Most important, we need this in the elementary school so that we can effectively support all students before challenges escalate and become more significant in middle school. I urge you to take a look at this issue for the sake of all students and staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, I think right now we should do the motion for the bond. Can we go ahead and do that? Who's reading that?
I'll read that.
Okay.
You don't have to read the whole thing.
I won't read that.
Yes.
I'll keep it down to
Thank
one
you.
sentence. How about that?
Thank
After
you.
like 50 pages. That's what we pay the lawyers for. The administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approves the resolution to issue general obligation bonds, series of 2014 of this school district for the purpose of the alterations, additions, and renovations of existing school district buildings per the attachment.
Do I have a motion to approve? So moved. Thank you, Diane. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lori. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. Thank you.
Roll call.
I have to do a roll call.
It has to be roll.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Driscoll?
Aye.
Ms. Robinson?
Aye.
Dr. Van Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Pollard?
Aye.
Ms. DiBonaventura?
Aye.
Dr. Golden?
Aye.
Ms. Ackman?
Aye.
Dr. O'Leary?
Aye.
Dr. Gilbert?
Aye.
All in favor, that's 9 in favor.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to just move into some routine actions at this time. I want to approve the minutes from the following meetings. The March 17th, 2014 regular business board minutes, the April 21st, 2014 Education Committee and supplementary regular board minutes, as well as accepting the following committee meetings: March 26th Legislative, April 7th Finance, April 8th Curriculum, and April 11th Policy. April 22nd Legislative, April 23rd Communications, and April 24th Facilities and Purchasing. I don't think we've missed any. I think that's everything. Do you have a motion to approve?
I so move.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you very much. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. Dr. McGinley?
Thank you. Good evening. Moving to the action items, I'm recommending the Board of School Directors approve the human resource action items as listed in HR 1 through HR 5, and this includes, among other things, our summer appointments and reclassifications and additional assignments for current employees.
Are there any questions? Do you have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion passes.
Next is the educational services items under Dr. Marseille, but we'll begin with the report of the curriculum committee.
Thank you,
Dr.
Dr.
Van Lynch.
McGinley. The curriculum committee met on Tuesday, April 8th at 8:30. The presentation topics first covered was project-based assessments. Ms. Kimberly Frazier, Special Education Supervisor, provided the committee with a comprehensive overview of the PDE Chapter 4 regulations on academic standards and assessments, specifically project-based assessments. These assessments will impact any student in grade 12, beginning with the class of 2017, who's not demonstrated proficiency on an Algebra 1, biology, and/or literature keystone examination. What was made clear to the committee is that this alternative assessment to the keystone is not a traditional project-based assessment, but rather an online assessment that students sit for after they have had 2 unsuccessful attempts at passing the keystone. The current 9th grade class will be the first class that will be under these new regulations. These state-mandated PBAs require a tremendous amount of district resources to provide remediation and support for students. 4 district-level staff must be involved in the process. District-level assessment coordinator, a school assessment coordinator, which will usually be an assistant principal, a tutor or teacher, and a test administrator. Proficiency on a PBA satisfies the state graduation requirement for students unable to demonstrate proficiency on a keystone, or for those who opt out of keystone examinations for religious reasons. Students with IEPs may be eligible to take the PBA after 1 time of being unsuccessful. The IEP team is responsible for making those decisions in the best interest of the student. Ms. Frazier and Mr. Rich Marta discussed with the committee the communication plan timeline to be shared with the secondary schools. Questions from the board centered around numbers of students that would be eligible to take PBAs, staffing and related costs to the district for implementation, communication with parents and guardians, and the practicality of implementation given other district priorities. Second presentation topic was on the Arcadia STEM partnership. Ms. Nancy Aconchia Mesa presented the committee with an update on the elementary STEM certificate and Arcadia University partnership, which will provide teachers an opportunity to deepen their STEM and pedagogical content knowledge and to experience leadership opportunities through collaboration and professional development. Between fall 2014 and spring 2016, teachers will take 5 courses earning 15 credits taught by Arcadia faculty, which includes a week-long summer abroad course through Arcadia's College of Global Studies in Sicily. Board can't go, unfortunately. Tuition for the program will be based on the Penn State graduate rate, and study abroad costs will be covered by Arcadia. The goal is to invite 10 to 15 Lower Merion School District elementary teachers to participate, and workshops introducing the program will be facilitated in May. The committee looks forward to receiving additional updates on this exciting partnership. And the final presentation topic was on the proposal for elementary English as a second language audit. Dr. Doria shared with the committee the need to take a deeper look at our ESL program, which now serves 135 students who speak a total of 21 different languages and continues to grow. Faculty consultants with Temple University were requested to support the district in the audit. The consultants will support with both PDE guidelines as well as academic and language development components of our current program, with the overarching goal to address how students are being serviced and how their ESL needs can be best met. The total cost to hire consultants is for 10 days of work totaling $26,200 and will be funded through the elementary education budget. The committee agreed to move the proposal forward for full board consideration. And finally, Dr. Doria updated the committee on next steps regarding district planning for elementary instructional time. Based on the work and recommendations of the elementary scheduling committee, the elementary leadership team recommends that the 4th and 5th grade students participate in 60 minutes as opposed to 90 minutes of flex time. This will provide some additional time to support the core academic programs in these 2 grades. The team further recommended that to alleviate the scheduling crunch and to minimally impact the overall integrity of the FLES minutes in the student's full elementary experience, 30 to 40 minutes per week would be added to the first grade program. The elementary leadership team is working to develop a K-12 world language team who will develop a position statement, identify opportunities for professional development and collaboration, create curriculum maps, scope and sequence and learning targets, and design student learning objectives. Both the elementary and secondary teams will work throughout the spring and summer to ensure a smooth transition in FLES and our secondary world language programs. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, May 6th in this room. Thank you.
What time?
Oh, 8:30 a.m.
Thank you. Dr. Marseille?
Thank you. I wanted to say that as a follow-up to Dr. Van Lynch, that at that next meeting, we do plan to follow up on the project-based assessment and give some numbers with regards to what the costs are, unfunded mandates, unfortunately, that PD provides, and will provide clarity on what that costs the district, which were not originally budgeted for, but unfortunately PD's Chapter 4 regulations and their mandates continue to put a strain on school districts across the Commonwealth. So we'll share some of that as a follow-up. So moving on, the administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approves the overnight field trip request per Exhibit CS-1.
Are there any questions? Do you have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Marissa. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
The administration recommends the Board of School Directors approves the service agreement and addendum to Startup Core not to exceed the amount of $27,000 per Exhibit CS-2. Startup Core is an inquiry-based program that uses the context of entrepreneurship to teach youth important life, leadership, and learning skills while pursuing their unique passions.
Are there any questions? Do you have a motion to approve?
I so move.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ben. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion passes.
The administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approves this memorandum of understanding between Lower Merion School District and Temple University to conduct an elementary English as a second language program assessment and training per Exhibit C-3. Temple University will provide a comprehensive analysis of the district's elementary ESL program and a written assessment of their findings.
Are there any questions? I need to recuse myself from this vote as a potential conflict of interest because I'm employed by Temple University. So do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Lori. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you. Under Student Services, the administration recommends the Board of School Directors approve student service items as listed, and these are agreements for students receiving non-district educational services per Exhibits SS1 through SS6.
Do you have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion passes.
Next, the administration recommends the Board of School Directors approve the final special education plan per Exhibit SS7, but I would also note that the strategic planning process is a way to modify the final plan.
And we've discussed this at previous meetings as well. Are there any questions or comments?
Just the comment that was brought up during public comment, will we have the opportunity to address that as we implement the plan during the strategic plan, or will there be more opportunity to discuss that comment?
Sure. I mean, there were, as I mentioned earlier, some comments received after the plan deadline, and we tried to answer questions if people were asking a direct question, and we've taken the input under consideration. So if the curriculum committee wants to talk about that, because it's certainly connected to our instructional program, we'd be happy to come back and give a broader report.
Can you just briefly review kind of the outreach that occurred for the plan? Thanks.
I would call on Ms. Savage to do that because
Okay.
she can do it much more effectively than I could.
Good evening. When the plan was actually drafted by the Special Education Plan Subcommittee, we did a number of things in order to provide outreach to the community, including putting the draft plan up on the website, along with a letter introducing the plan and the process that we went through in order to create the draft plan. We also made sure that paper copies of the letter were sent home with the elementary school children in the Thursday folder. And we mailed out copies of the paper letter to families at the secondary level that had not provided an email address. In addition, we made sure that there were paper copies available at all district offices, along with a paper comment form. And we also made sure that paper copies were available in township libraries, similarly, along with those paper comment forms. And the paper comment forms in particular had an address on the form so that the form could be mailed back to us. And last but not least, we did some outreach through the Committee for Special Education, where I actually spent some time with parents in the community that chose to come to the meeting to speak to the special education plan in particular.
Thanks, and I appreciate all the effort the administration took to outreach to all the key stakeholders.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments at this time? Oh, sorry, Marissa.
I just wanted to thank Ms. Savage for the work that she did and her keeping us continually updated and being really thorough in this process. It was very impressive.
Are we good? Okay, at this time then I'd like to make a motion. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. Thank you very much.
And we're moving to the Business and Finance, and we'd ask for the report of the Facilities and Purchasing Committee from Ms. Robinson. And after Ms. Robinson's report, I'm going to ask Mr. Spar just to give a summary of the bids that we received on the Welsh Valley and Ballackinwood projects so that the board and the public have a chance to hear those recommendations at this meeting, although we've had very extensive discussion at other meetings, including last week's Facilities Committee meeting. Ms. Robinson?
Thank you, Dr. McGinley. The Facilities and Purchasing Committee met on April 24th at 8:30 a.m. We reviewed the list of bills. We reviewed these in detail without issue. We reviewed an internet service proposal from Level 3 and a master service agreement, noting that the contract agreement is still pending solicitor approval. And we reviewed Nintex purchase from Image Tech Systems. This would enable workflow improvements, and we reviewed that without issue. We reviewed a purchasing of projection system and speaker equipment from Starlight, and this relates to the next item. So we reviewed Starlight quotation for installation services for Ballackinwood Middle School projection systems. This involves installing new projection systems and speakers as well as control panels in 79 classrooms at Ballackinwood Middle School. We also reviewed an addendum to a contract with Musco Sports Lighting. This addendum involves Musco leaving the lighting systems for the Harriton High School Stadium through June 2015. The addendum is projected to save the district money as the removal and reinstallation of lighting each season costs the district a lot of money, as well as possible damage to the new track and site. We reviewed an agreement with Philly Transportation for transportation and training services. We reviewed a proposal from Barry Izett and Associates relating to the Arnold Field project. It's a proposal for design of a pervious surface walkway to the Arnold Field Stadium seating. We reviewed a proposal for Mass J. Thomas Company for moving some office furniture and equipment. We reviewed a proposal for a full-size bus, including the purchase includes a replacement bus for the duration that the bus is not available in the event that it's not delivered before the start of the school year. And we received updates on the Penn Valley and Ballackinwood Middle School enrollment expansion projects. We received bids from Welsh Valley Enrollment Expansion Project, and Mr. Spar is going to go over those now. Our next meeting is scheduled for May 15th at 8:30 a.m.
Thank you. I just one note on the Starlight contract that's on the agenda. The Facilities Committee elected to modify the recommendation from the administration regarding the sound system portion of that recommendation, and that's an issue that we'd like to revisit at another time. Mr. Spar?
Hold on, just one quick question on the other things. Just for a point of clarification, the promenade wall repairs at Kinwood do not include plastic seating, is that correct?
I believe so, but Mr. Ganan?
The answer to your question is yes. I had made a mistake at the Facilities Committee. So therefore, I'd recommend it be approved with both alternates.
I'm just going to disconnect it. Okay, thank you. Good evening. My name is Damian Spar with Reynolds, and we received bids on the 21st of April for the Welsh Valley Middle School base bid project, as well as several alternates. That was after moving the bid from April 2nd to April 21st, because we found out in the couple of days leading up to bid that we were not going to have biddership for general trades construction and limited biddership for electrical construction. When the bids came in, as you can see on the screen, and there are comparisons to estimate and budget, we were over our original approved budget in the base bid by $1.48 million for the base bid, partly due to an apparent low bid electrical bid, which was above our estimate but was dropped, or was requested that it be withdrawn as a result of a clerical error, which created a difference of, I think, about $600,000 on the base bid, which increased the cost of the base bid that you're seeing here to what you see here in the budget variance. We also took bids for the alternate at the Ballackinwood Storage Edition, and that was different from our budget by about $95,000, again because we only had one general trades bidder at the final bid day for this project. A couple of these things that have extensive general trades construction, you can see the lack of competition drove the price up. The deduct that we bid for the gym HVAC to not do that came in very close to what we expected it to, at a reduction of about $505,000. And the loading dock kitchen addition at Welsh Valley, which is also another recommendation, came in higher than estimated but was never budgeted nor funded as a part of the project's approved budget, and you see that not budgeted line item there. When you take all these things into account, the budget variance for the Welsh Valley base bid project with the alternates, including Ballackinwood, is about just under $1.4 million. And when you look at the entire program budget, if you include, again, the $300,000 for the loading dock kitchen addition, which was not budgeted, the program requires about $1.9 million of additional funding to support soft costs, the construction costs shown here in that additional loading dock kitchen expansion alternate.
And I asked Mr. Sparta to summarize this. It is our recommendation to move forward and award these bids. Not awarding the bids at this time would delay the project by a year. There would be cost implications in terms of having to secure adequate classroom space. So the installation of additional portable classrooms, going back through land development would be part of that process. So based on those costs and no clear expectation that future bids would come in better than these bids, we are asking that we move forward with that, and we're also asking the board to approve this despite the disappointing results of the bid, because we believe programmatically that it is the correct thing to do in terms of providing adequate classroom space as soon as possible, and also addressing the other deficit areas in the Welsh Valley campus. Going into this project, we wanted to make a commitment that we have a comparable set of resources for kids and families at both middle schools, and so we are not recommending a redesign, and we're not recommending eliminating or reducing the scope of the project. We're recommending moving forward with the project despite the disappointing bid results.
Are there any questions or comments? This was discussed extensively at facilities this past Thursday, which is a public meeting, obviously, but at this time, are there any? Diane?
I have a couple questions. Could you talk about alternate one for BC, what exactly that entails?
Yes. It entails the construction of new storage addition on the, there's a field at Bala-Cynwyd. When you're kind of looking at it from the front, it's on the right side of the building. And it's a two-story addition to that building that provides for music storage and I believe some gym storage as well. That program's been looked at to see if there's any way that storage could be placed anywhere else in that building, and it's simply tapped out. And despite the fact that that addition is for storage, that addition was designed so that it fits in with the architecture of Bala-Cynwyd Middle School, and ultimately building storage space onto that school is more cost effective than adding classrooms, because classrooms simply cost more than storage space when you're adding that few of them, or really adding any number of them.
So is that the only work at BC that we were talking about?
Yes, the other work that was done at BC was completed this summer, and that was under budget.
Okay.
This summer and this school year.
Summer and then into
during the school year.
Beginning of the school year,
And-
that's correct.
And in renovating those spaces, some of which had previously been used as storage spaces, including the old wrestling room, part of the old wrestling room, we eliminated storage in favor of classrooms within the envelope of the existing school building. And we really maxed it out by getting rid of the locker rooms, which also had a little storage in them, and we really feel that this is a responsible recommendation. And it's not music storage, we don't carry that much music, but musical instruments and equipment, yeah.
The whole reason for bidding that with the West Valley project was to hopefully get a better bid, because it was made the project staging and all these other things.
Overhead and general conditions, yes, that's right.
Is it possible that we could save money by bidding that one out separately? Pulling it out, not accepting the bid alternate, but then seeking to do the work. I mean, I agree, Dr. McGinley, with your description that it's work that we need, but, and if we were to delay it and bid it out later, we don't have quite the pressing issue as we do for space at Welsh Valley for students, so.
I would ask Mr. Ganand to comment on that, if you don't mind.
And my view would be that if we pulled this out and tried to do this separately, we would not see a cost savings, because it is a relatively small project for a project of that nature. And by combining it with the Welsh Valley General Trades, I think we saw the best efficiency we're going to see there, especially given the fact that we would turn around and do this at some point in the future. I've touched some of my resources in the past couple of days about the nature of the construction business, and what I'm learning is that things are starting to heat up very quickly. There's a number of large projects in the city and on the perimeter of the city that are getting ready to start this summer. And so if we were to push this off, I'm not sure we would do any better just in terms of increased competition for other projects.
I don't want to get into a long conversation with about that, but so, and again, Mr. Gannon, maybe you're the better one to answer this next question. Since the meeting on Thursday, one of the questions we asked on Thursday was, is there anything we can do to reduce the scope of the project in the hopes of saving a significant amount of money? And you offered 2 scenarios to us. I know the administration is not recommending those scenarios, but what would be the cost savings for each of those?
We did get a rough cost estimate this morning for those. The first option was to forego rearranging the administration area and simply create a new health suite by taking over the classroom that's at the end of that wing, and then forego any new lobby whatsoever and continue business as usual. And that's about $1 million savings.
And then that's option 1, and then option 2.
Option 2 is to go ahead with the current plan to rearrange the administration to include the new health suite, but not build a new lobby area. Continue with the breezeway the way it is, readjust that fence that we have installed there so that in our new configuration, people can come in, be signed in, and then enter into the school. That would save about $500,000.
Okay. And Dr. McGinley, again, I know that you're not recommending that we accept these scenarios. However, while rearranging the health suite is a significant advantage or improvement to what's happening right now in the middle schools at Welsh Valley, and would greatly improve the quality of service that we provide to our children, the rearrangement of the entryway is less vital to the running of the school and more a enhancement to allow us a little more flexibility with how we display artwork, how we use how we move kids in and out of the auditorium. Please correct me. I mean, I think there's. I personally see those 2 pieces of the project. I view them very differently. So I'd be interested in hearing what you have to say.
I agree that they're 2 different parts of the puzzle. The health suite and the office suite, not just the health suite, but health and office, in order to safeguard the safety, well-being, and privacy of our children and our families, we need that revised. It's a difficult, precarious situation where students are not afforded privacy around health matters, discipline matters. There's an array of issues there that our staff really mitigates every single day. So absolutely that needs to occur. The lobby space, creating the lobby space and uniting the cafeteria and auditorium to the office suite and creating a place where we can have an entryway and a center and a place where student artwork can be displayed, where messages that every student should receive can be posted and celebrated in the way that we do at Bala-Cynwyd by having things in the hallway and communicating themes across the school. By creating that space, it enhances the security, which we have gates there now. They're ugly, but they're there, and so it's not the safety issue, but it is the level of commitment that we've made in our other buildings in terms of having a welcoming space and a place where people can arrive through a secure lobby as we've been creating in these other places. I'm not aware of a way to make that secure lobby space that we've been installing in the elementary schools across the district with the existing arrangement. I mean, we have a button to come into the office, but you're coming right into the middle of the office and you're in the midst of things. So if we don't do a renovation and don't add that lobby space, we're not afforded that same level of safety and security that we have in the other buildings, and we're not afforded the same level of programmatic opportunity that we have in the other middle school. But I recognize there are two different issues.
Well, and maybe I misread the diagram that we received. The way I looked at that scenario too, it still had a buzz-in situation into a receiving area in the office, and then a buzz through to the other side. It's just that the wall is. It's more a wall between two outsides rather than a wall between inside and outside. I mean, you'd still have the security issue the security improvements that we have in the other buildings. From what I could see from those diagrams, the difference is the display space, which, while great to have, we're in a situation where we are well over budget from what we were trying to be, and we've had situations before with this, and we've cut back on scope and took out some of the bells and whistles, and it just seems to me that scenario 2 would allow us to improve the quality of services that we give to the students. It just wouldn't allow us the ability to improve the quality of their display space.
I would ask our architectural representative just to clarify the thing about the entry,
Okay.
because I'm going from memory as
Yeah.
you are. So.
Yeah, right.
Yes, just to clarify, in option 2, what we're doing is just putting a door where the gate is now in that breezeway area. So basically, you're left with the same situation that you have now. Somebody entering through the door into the administration is in the administration room. There's not a secure vestibule where you have to be buzzed into the first set of doors, in that locked position of the secure vestibule, and then going into the administration area.
I thought that was option 1.
It's option 2. If you look at option 2, all it is replacing the gate with a door at the breezeway there. It's not actually adding in a vestibule area.
But it involves, option 2 involves reorientation of the entire office
Correct.
area.
Right.
So that the entrance to the office is over on that side instead of in the middle, right?
Correct. But the door that replaces the gate is just locking down the breezeway. I don't have, so that people coming into the building are just going right into the door into the administration area.
Right.
Because they can't go into the breezeway.
Right.
So you don't, instead of going in the full renovation and full lobby renovation scenario that was bid, people entering into the building are going into a lockdown, secured vestibule before they're buzzed into the administration area. You understand what I'm saying?
I think, but it's still, you're going from, you have to be buzzed in. It would be...
It's just one more step to slow the visitor down so that they can be checked through.
But it's not a secure lobby that we've been going around installing in each of our buildings.
No.
Well, I think that's kind of semantics, but I'm trying to find, Denise, what was that sent under, those pictures? Okay.
While you're looking for that,
Yeah,
in the meantime, are there any other questions or comments? I'd actually like, I'd like the administration to kind of go back over when we had discussed originally the plans around Welsh Valley. There was a lot of discussion about how the current Welsh Valley facilities, even before the enrollment increases, had some limitations. And so I thought it might be useful if Dr. McGinley or
I would actually ask Mr. Hall, since he was kind enough to stay after his presentation.
To talk about some of those limitations would be helpful, I think.
Just briefly, Mr. Hall, Just
Sure. So certainly the nurses suite has been mentioned. The square footage of the nurses suite isn't conducive to the enrollment to ensure that there's sufficient privacy. There are also issues around student discipline and privacy concerning that. Students that are sent down to the main office to be counseled are essentially sitting in a wide open area that doesn't afford them privacy in terms of discussions they have with the administration. Just to give you a couple other examples, our 3 challenged teachers don't have a full classroom space. Two of them, actually, their office space is located, believe it or not, overlooking the girls' locker room. So in an old, I think, phys ed teacher's office, tough to find. And the third is in a small space that couldn't house more than about 6 children. I think it historically had been a copy room. Going forward, next year is slated to be a really, really challenging year in terms of room utilization, with our projected enrollment last week at 960, which would call for an increased number of teachers that would need to essentially teach off of a cart, which, despite the fact that our teachers are really conscientious about planning, poses a serious challenge. So if you can picture this, when the class period ends, our teachers are looking to break down a technology setup and pack up and bring all the necessary materials to a classroom space that might be on the other end of a large courtyard, and trying to beat students through the traffic to try to set up another technology setup and get ready, all the while trying to be social and welcoming and engaging students and answering students' questions from the class that's being broken, the classroom stuff that's being broken down, and greeting students when they're trying to set up a new classroom. It poses some serious challenges in terms of making sure that the classroom environment that they're trying to set up is in place in time to begin the class and not waste valuable classroom time. So a serious concern. We have a couple teachers this year that are in as many as 4 or 5 classrooms because of that room utilization constraint.
Thank you.
Sure.
Are there other questions and comments?
I just have one other question.
Maureen,
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
No,
I realize
I
that.
wanted to thank the administration and everyone that was in the facilities meeting on Thursday. It was a really long, detailed, and intense meeting, and we went through these things round and round. With the separate options, and specifically the second option, can you talk about the possibility of doing the lobby later? Or like putting it off for a year? Is that feasible? Is it not? Is it cost efficient? What would be the implications of that?
Certainly it could be put off, but I think you need to realize that were we to look at either option 1 or option 2, it would mean that we would reject the bids tonight, and then we would have to rebid, which means we would be in this 1-year delay scenario and have to look at all the things that Dr. McGinley mentioned. And again, the cost saving is estimated roughly this morning at about $500,000.
So the lobby's part of the bid, it's not an alternate.
Correct, that is correct. But theoretically, yes, that could be done.
Yeah, I do. I just wanted to make sure other people had a chance before I jumped in. So 2 questions. One, but it could be done as a change order. We could accept the bids and then, have it become a deduct change order after the fact.
That's correct, although...
So we wouldn't, to hold off on the lobby, we wouldn't necessarily have to hold off on the bids. We could...
True. However, I think you know this from your experience. Anytime you go in and try to delete scope and try to get the same value from a contractor, you never get the same value.
Right, but that could be part of the discussion. Find out how much they'd be willing to take off, and we could decide whether it was worth it.
That's correct.
And then the other quick question I had is, since it could be done as a change order, I actually have, now that I'm looking at this as closely, I have a couple of questions regarding the design. If we approve the design as it is, I have a concern about it that I want to share. So will we have an opportunity to talk about this at a later facilities meeting so that I mean,
We talk about all projects at Facilities Committee
right, I
meetings,
know,
so
well,
even
I
while
know,
they're
but I'm talking
underway.
about, well, we have the time, well, so let's just say in the magic world that the comments I have about this, people realize, oh, hey, that's an issue and we need to do something about it. We have time to make a deduct change order with we don't have to decide today to do the deduct change order. And I may speak to our architects and they may explain to me my issue and I'll say, oh, great, I'm happy to step away. I mean, we only just got this weekend. I have not had a chance to talk to the architects about it yet. So all of this may be a moot point because I may be reassured by what they had to say. But if my comments resonate with them, we could, at the May board facilities meeting or even the June facilities meeting, decide that something needs to change, and we could do the change order, we could approve a change order at that point, right? We're not under the gun to make that decision now, correct?
We are under the gun when it comes to that lobby. That's one of the key pieces of work that has to get finished this summer, or at least the beginning of it. So if we're going to make a decision about that lobby, we need to do that right away.
It depends on the scope of what you're discussing, Diane, and I don't know that. But every project that's approved.
I'm not suggesting we make it bigger. So
No, the
I'm
rearrangement
thinking
of
make it
the
smaller,
office area and the health suite, that's scheduled for the summer of
right,
15
and that I
anyway,
understand.
so we have time to make changes.
But every project that the board approves gets updated at Facilities Committee meetings. And, sometimes we come with something we'd like to, often we come with something we'd like to see change once things get underway. So there's always the ability to shape or, modify through the change order process once something is approved. But
I understand that. My question was regarding the timing of this particular piece, whether we had.
this is the first order piece of work in terms of the foundation and the plumbing and the steel work.
Are there other comments or questions at this time?
I just wanted to thank the administration. I think this has been tough for everyone because the bids didn't come in exactly as we all wanted, but obviously these are all very important expansion and improvement projects for the facilities which impact the educational program. So, not always easy decisions, but I think timing really is of the essence because summer is when most of the work needs to get started or done. So thanks for presenting the options and being very thorough with everyone about why this happened and I guess the options we all have.
Thank you, Lori. I'm actually thinking that maybe we should vote on this at this point and just move this up to the vote since we've had such a thorough discussion.
This is 11B on the agenda.
We didn't do the Business Office of Finance 10. Do you want to?
I know, but since this has just been discussed, we're just going to go out of order and then we'll come back to the other section of the agenda.
Okay, so under 11B, the administration recommends the Board of School Directors hereby resolves the following. Award the bids as per the attached purchase report for asbestos abatement at Walsh Valley Middle School. Let's see here. The additions and alterations, general construction for Bala Kinwood and Walsh Valley Middle Schools. Trying to find here. It's a little hard with this. The additions and alterations for the plumbing contractor for Bala Kinwood and Walsh Valley Middle Schools. The addition and alterations, mechanical construction at the Bala Kinwood and Walsh Valley Middle Schools, and the additions and alterations for electrical construction at Bala Kinwood and Walsh Valley Middle Schools. And the final one is the chiller direct pre-purchase for the Walsh Valley Middle School.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lori. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. We have an additional motion at this time as well.
Yes. The administration recommends that the board accepts the April 28, 2014 proposal by Reynolds Construction to amend the contract price of the construction management service agreement with the district by providing for a $25,000 credit to the basic services fee, as well as Reynolds to provide $5,000 worth of post-bid cost reduction services at no cost to the district.
Do you have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. The motion passes, and, well, we're obviously disappointed with the bids. We, appreciate. We didn't. I'm sorry. I'm jumping ahead. Let's vote first. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. And I would like to say again that while we, are obviously disappointed with the bids, we appreciate your willingness to work with us on this and look forward to moving forward at this point.
And we appreciate the support of the board on this item, and we all are, sorry that that turned out this way. It was certainly not what any of us wanted or anticipated. So with that, I'd like to tell Mr. Hall to go home and then ask Mr. Orlando to go back to 10A, 10B, which is the approval of the list of bills.
Yeah, I'm going to take, sake of time, 10B through E, if that's okay, unless some board wants me to separate any of those items. Okay, so we're going to approve the list of bills for payment, approve the financial report for March 2014, acknowledge receipt of the third quarter student activities report, and approve the donation of $200 to the Penn Valley Elementary School for Mr. Sketchley, a former Penn Valley student. We did D, B, C, D, and E. We did.
I would like to very much thank Mr. Sketchley for his donation. Do you have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
The administration recommends that the Board of School Directors tentatively adopts the 2014-15 proposed final school district budget with authorizes expenditures totaling $234,520,559 as presented in the attachment. Levies a real estate tax of 25.335 mils. Continues the 1% real estate transfer tax and continues the $5 local services tax.
Thank you. We've had discussion already, but are there any questions or comments at this point? Do we need to do a roll call vote on this? Okay. So, do you have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Ms. LaPierre, can you?
Yes, I would happy to, as long as I can find my form. I found it. Thank you. Sorry. Okay. Ms. Robinson?
Aye.
Dr. Van Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Pollard?
Aye.
Ms. DiBonaventuro?
Yes.
Dr. Golden?
Yes.
Ms. Ackman?
Yes.
Dr. O'Leary?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Dr. Gilbert?
Yes.
That's 9 in favor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The administration recommends the Board of School Directors authorizes the district's solicitor's office to execute a settlement stipulation resolving the assessment appeal for the property located at 410 West Lancaster Avenue, Lower Merion Township, with a parcel number of 40-00-29916-00-5.
Do you have any questions? Do you have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Ben. Do I have a second? Thank you, Marissa. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion passes.
And then I'm just going to take the last two items in this section. The administration recommends the Board of School Directors approve the proposal for professional services regarding property assessment appeals from Valbridge Property Advisors, Lukens and Wolf LLC, and also we have a list of items to declare as surplus property.
Are there any questions? Do you have a motion to approve? Thank you. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Going to the facilities and operations, I believe Mrs. Robinson went through these, so I'll do the first item and then we can do the rest all in one motion, if that's okay. The administration recommends the Board of School Directors hereby awards the bids for the contractors for the repairs to the promenade wall at the Kinwood Elementary School. Also approve the 172 passenger CNG rear engine type D school bus. And also approve the 79 classroom projection systems at the Ballackinwood Middle School.
Are there any questions? Do you have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Second? Thank you, Marissa. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion passes.
And then I'm going to take the next items, C through K, if that's okay, unless somebody wants an item removed. Okay. So approve the master agreement containing a price quote, recurring fee of $2,616.41 per month with level 3 for dedicated internet service that is subject to the solicitor's review. Approve Starlight Productions for the installation quote for the projection system at the Ballackinwood Middle School. Approve the Image Tech Systems quote for the 9Tech's workflow. Approve the agreement addendum with Philly Trans LLC. Approve the addendum to the original mobile lighting with Musco Sports Lighting LLC. Approve the appraisal from Barry Isett for the Arnold Field paved walkway not to exceed $10,400. We also want to approve let's see here, SJ Thomas Company for the modifications at the main office and the classrooms at Penwood Elementary. That is through the Keystone Purchasing Network bid. Approve the submission of Plan Con F Attachment C. That is for the Walsh Valley Middle School to PDE. And approve the change orders for the additions and alterations at Penn Valley Elementary School and the classroom and office modifications at Ballackinwood Middle School.
Again, these were reviewed in detail at the facilities meeting, but are there any questions at this time? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Ben. Do I have a second? Thank you, Lori. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. Okay, we're now going to move into business of the Board of Directors, and we're going to start with a report of the Policy Committee by Ms. Pollard.
This is a summary of the Policy Committee that met on April the 11th of this year. The following policies are up for adoption tonight. Policy number 108, which is adoption of curriculum materials, and policy number 258, individual and group assessment tools. As reported last month, policy number 108 has been revised to add additional protections for our students' privacy. The revision provides that web-based tools and other online curriculum materials be selected and implemented in a way that protects the confidentiality of our students' personally identifiable information to ensure our students' privacy and avoid promotional marketing directed to our students. The committee also approved the revision of the accompanying administrative to accompany this policy. Policy number 258 is a new policy designed to ensure our students' privacy with respect to web-based tools used by the district to track individual and group student performance. The district uses products and consulting services to collect and organize data on the achievement of its students so that the district can use the data to enhance the educational program of our students. This policy provides for the selection acquisition, and systematic reevaluation of these products and consulting services. This policy is also intended to address the release of personally identifiable information pursuant to the exceptions under the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act to third parties who will collect and organize student data for the district's use in tracking individual and group student performance. Policies up for first reading. Policy number 235, Students' Rights and Responsibilities, is on the agenda for first reading to add additional protections for our students' freedom of expression and to bring the policy in compliance with recent case law. The proposed revision also clarifies the district's prohibition against look-alike drugs by defining that term more precisely. Other policies discussed. The committee reviewed policies relating to special education, Section 504, service agreements, and gifted education. The committee agreed to combine these topics, currently spread among 3 separate policies, into one policy with 3 administrative regulations. This combined policy, number 114, retitled Individualized Student Programs and Services, intends to safeguard the rights of our students to access and receive an appropriately individualized education in compliance with federal and state law requirements, and to make sure the parents and guardians of our students are fully informed as to their child's rights and individualized student programs and services in the areas of special education and gifted education. Approval of administrative regulations. The committee approved revisions to Administrative Regulation 806, Child Abuse, to reflect the most up-to-date reporting requirements to assure the safety and well-being of our students. The committee approved revisions to Administrative Regulation 816, website hosting, to make sure that our students' privacy is protected for websites that teachers ask our students to use for classroom use. The next meeting of the Policy Committee is scheduled for May 9th at 8:30 a.m. in this room. All are welcomed.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Pollard. Megan, can I ask a clarification? On the agenda, it says that 108, 111, and 258 are up for second reads. Is that accurate? That is correct. Okay.
111 is not a first read? No? It's a lesson plan policy. Is it a first read or a second read? I thought it was a first.
I thought it was a first read.
Lesson plan is a first read.
Okay, so we're going to vote on the second read of 108 and 258 only, so we can correct that wherever it needs to be corrected. Okay, so at this time, are there any questions on policy 108 or policy 258? Okay. Are there more? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve? Do you want to?
So moved.
Do you have a second?
I second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion's pass. And so first read is policy 111, policy 235. I think that's correct. So those will go back again to policy and will come for a second read at a future business meeting.
Can I ask just a quick question? Was there a time pressure on 111 or no?
The pressure is to make sure that we approve it in May.
Okay.
So that when we do work at the end of the school year, we can fully inform teachers about that, the implications of that policy through the administrative regulation. So we're still okay, but it hadn't gone to a first read last month, so this is the first read. It did?
I'm sorry, excuse me, I thought it was the policy was reviewed for the second reading, but the AR had some changes to it. So the policy was going forward with the second reading, and the AR had some changes to it. That was my understanding from the meeting, but
Okay, so why don't we,
The most cautious route is call it a first read tonight.
call it a first read, and
We'll still be
then,
okay. We know where this is heading, and then we'll bring it back for your approval in May.
okay? Perfect, thank you. Okay, at this time, we're going to move on to approve a resolution for pre-K education. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. O'Leary to discuss it.
Thank you. Last month at the Legislative Committee of the Board, listened to a presentation by the group Pre-K for PA. Pre-K for PA is an issue campaign supported by a large number of organizations from across the Commonwealth, including the PA chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Office of the Mayor of Philadelphia, the Pennsylvania Budget and Policy Center, 12 County United Way organizations, and one of our area's quality pre-K providers, the Montgomery County Early Learning Centers. Their goal is to make early childhood education an issue for political candidates. The board was presented with compelling data supporting the need for access to quality pre-K education in Pennsylvania. In our district, we're fortunate to have a number of high-quality options for pre-K children. However, these options do not exist in every district, nor are they affordable to every family in this district. The Legislative Committee has considered the data presented and believes that sending the message that all children should have the opportunity to enter school ready to succeed is an important educational issue. The Legislative Committee recommends that the board pass the proposed resolution. And the resolution, shall I read it now? Okay. Whereas the Lower Merion School District's Board of School Directors is aware that respected research shows that children who have had access to high-quality pre-K experiences perform well in school and further in life, and rigorous national efforts to estimate benefit-cost ratios of preschool have suggested that early childhood education can be a wise financial investment. And whereas child care centers, nursery schools, and pre-K centers in our community offer high-quality pre-K programs to children of families, and the school district successfully collaborates and engages with local preschool programs to help ensure readiness for school through a variety of thoughtful approaches to child development. And whereas these programs are not available to all families in our community due to economic circumstances, and an increasing number of our district's families are finding it difficult to meet the cost of high-quality pre-K. Therefore, be it resolved, the Lower Merion School District's Board of School Directors supports the adoption of state funding policies that ensure every 3- and 4-year-old child in Pennsylvania can access high-quality pre-K programs through a variety of service providers, and as a result, will more likely be ready for academic and lifelong success.
Okay, thank you very much, Maureen. Are there any questions or comments from the board at this time?
Shock. I have a comment. I just want to caution everybody, while I support pre-K and I think it's a great thing, no matter how good the lobbying effort is, even if the state says they're going to support it and they're going to pay for it, in reality, we're going to pay for it. So I just think I'm not disagreeing with it. I'm just saying we need to go into this sort of thing with our eyes wide open. Because originally the state said it was going to fully support education, period. Then it said we were fully going to support special education, and they've cut that. So I'm not saying we don't support pre-K. I'm just saying we need to go in with our eyes open. And then the second thing that I want to say is I applaud the Legislative Committee and looking at this pre-K issue. And I hope, while this is not a Legislative Committee issue, I hope the board will look as carefully and give as much thought to how much it will help our students if we address the sleep issue at the high schools.
Okay, let's focus first on the pre-K resolution, which is what this motion is about. And I would like to thank the Legislative Committee who carefully considered this at a number of meetings, including having discussions around funding issues as well. And I would like to thank Dr. McGinley as well for his work with the Legislative Committee to support. I think it is a really important and exciting issue. So With that, do I have a motion to approve?
I so move.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you, Marissa. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion passes.
Just want to make one comment. Thank you for passing the resolution, which I personally support, but also I want to thank you for acknowledging the work that our elementary office has done and Dr. Hart has done in engaging with preschool service providers throughout the district. There are monthly meetings, there's a very full agenda, and we try in every possible way to collaborate, and Reverend Pollard has helped us to collaborate with some of the smaller providers who have just a small number of kids and household childcare also. We take that effort very, very seriously, and we're pleased with the leadership that Dr. Hart has given to that over the years.
As well as I think Dr. McGinley mentioned earlier in your timeline issue that in the strategic planning process that the administration had included a number of questions related to the sleep discussion, and that we see the strategic planning process as the place to have a discussion of, what this issue means to large numbers of families and students who are participating for the first time. And my son informed me today that he said on the survey that he'd like to be able to sleep in later. So I'm imagining we'll be getting lots of feedback on these issues, and that we want to have a discussion around the full strategic plan and to see how that issue relates to others, and then move forward as appropriate. I'm moving into reports, but Maureen, did you do your report, or would you like to
There's just a couple of legislative updates.
Okay, why
that we
don't you give
have.
some legislative updates then? Thank you.
Just two quick ones. This board came out opposed to Senate Bill 1085, and right now under discussion in the legislature is House Bill 2138 and Senate Bill 1316, which are alternatives to the Charter Reform Bill. And the Pennsylvania School Board Association has come out endorsing those pieces of legislation. So if SB 1085 is something that you care about, you may want to speak up about that to your legislator. Also, this Wednesday, the Senate Finance Committee will be having a hearing to consider Senate Bill 76. And Senate Bill 76 dramatically changes the way education would be funded in the state of Pennsylvania. We would go from a real estate tax to an income tax, and it's just a complete overhaul of the system. So if that's something that people are interested in, they may want to learn more about Senate Bill 76 and reach out to their local representatives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the legislative updates. I'm now going to move to a report of the Finance Committee. Diane?
We pretty much covered the Finance Committee in the budget discussions, so I don't need to make a report.
Okay, thank you. And we're going to have a report of the Communications Committee by Marissa Golden.
The Communications Committee of the Lower Merion School Board of Directors met on Wednesday, April 23rd at 7 p.m. in this room. Ms. Ackman was not able to attend that meeting, so she asked me to be the designated pinch hitter, and I'm mixing my baseball metaphors. Most of the meeting was devoted to updates by Mr. Young, including a discussion of the recent events that had required a lot of communications work on his part, and the committee fully thanked him for being so effective in those communications with the media. He also updated us on a number of accolades that our students and programs have received, including our music program, our Green Fleet, all 4 of our TSA teams, that's Bala-Cynwyd Middle School, Welsh Valley Middle School, Harriton High School, and Lower Merion High School, all have qualified for nationals for the TSA, and our art students also took home some honors in the Mordecai Nelwitz Arts Competition. Doug talked about at length, and we've heard about this already this evening, the community outreach efforts regarding the strategic planning process. But what didn't even get mentioned was that among these outreach efforts, the communications office even went so far as to put flyers up in Wawa and other community centers so that everyone was aware that we were having these open community forum, and it sounds like that really paid off in the second and third open community meetings. He also reported on the almost 1,000 completed surveys, and I will just add that having completed the survey myself, it doesn't take very long. So don't be intimidated if people haven't filled those out yet, and that we'll be collecting that data till May 7th. Doug also talked a little bit about a construction project, not one of that our district is doing, but that will impact our district, which is Rock Hill Road, and that will impact, Rock Hill Road will be closed. The administration is very aware of this and the way it may impact our buses, as well as the Belmont Hills Elementary School, and we're working to ensure that there's no noise or safety issues from that construction. Doug talked about some upcoming events. The Girls Leadership Conference, which Melissa already mentioned, which occurred this past Saturday and was a great success, and two of the final centennial events at Kinwood Elementary School, the art show, and another event that will take place there, and the community is welcome at those events. There was one public comment, which was, again, praising Mr. Young for improvements in the district's communications, especially giving him, showing their appreciation through the myriad weather events that occurred this past winter. The meeting adjourned following that comment period, and the next meeting will be Wednesday, May 14th at 8:30 a.m. in this room. I'd just like to add, since I have the floor, having served as acting chair for this one meeting, about some thank yous for this Girls Leadership Conference, which was the first of its kind in the district. The conference coordinator, Paula Singer, was wonderful. Not only Doug Young, but Siobhan Savage and Megan Schaefer were very involved in the planning process and attended, gave up their Saturday morning to participate. Board President Dr. Melissa Gilbert gave some wonderful remarks, as did keynote speaker Stephanie Humphrey, who's a local television celebrity. The Education Foundation of Lower Merion and the Campbell Soup Company helped sponsor the event, and our higher education partners, Bryn Mawr College and the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania, both sent student volunteers who mentored and partnered with our high school girls and a few select middle school girls, and I'm hoping that it's the beginning of ongoing mentorships and ongoing partnerships. But most of all, the students who organized this conference, the Lower Merion and Harrington students, Maddie McFarland, Natalie Koch, Alyssa Clausen, Christy Kranzer, and Casey Haas. All I can say is that it's hard to imagine gender barriers persisting with these young women in the lead.
Well, thank you very much for that, Marissa, and I'd like to thank you as well, because as you can see, I just breezed in and thanked Doug, and so I'm very glad that you were there, and I know you did a lot of work on it as well, and we're able to see, sort of the full complement of everybody who worked on this. So again, thank you to everybody on this. And with that, I think unless there, no, I know we're not adjourned yet. We need public comment first, but I don't think, is there any other board member would like to add? I think we've hit everything. Okay. So at this time, I'd like to ask if there's any public comment on any item really at this time. If you can please come to the front, sign in, and I think Lorraine knows the drill, so.
Good evening, everyone. I have two questions, and one is for Ms. Savage. I was wondering concerning the special education plan, if all of the parents or the families of children with an IEP or a 504, if they have been outreached to and contacted, if they've been informed about this process. That's one question. And the second one, there was a reference in terms of the budget to special education related budget increases of sorts. And outside of the students who are who may be autistic, given that there's about 145 of them, and I think I counted about 910 students who are not, given that we have 1,055 students with an IEP, and not talking about the hundreds who have a 504. I'm wondering what caused any increase in special education expenditures outside of the autistic support realm, given that over the last years, each of the budget increases relative to special education have always referred to autistic support and more families moving into the community. So aside from that, what else is done in special education that causes an increase in any budget? I'm not sure what that amount is, but I'm wondering what has impacted that increase and what the increase actually is. So those are my two questions in terms of the outreach to parents of families of children with an IEP or a 504 actually, and then with the budget increases.
Thank you. So I'll take the second question, and I'll ask you to answer the first question, which every year we have had an increase in numbers of students who receive services who are on the spectrum, who have some version of autism. The diagnosis in that area has gotten much more sophisticated, and the programs and services that are offered to kids have gotten much more sophisticated. And when they are much more sophisticated, the programs and therapies become more expensive. That is one driver of the budget. But Ms. Savage and I looked at the last 5 years of identification of students in the school district in need of special education services, and we actually saw that there was a slight decrease in the percentage of kids who were evaluated for special education services and received an IEP, but there was a simultaneous increase of students arriving at our door with an IEP. So as our enrollment has increased, one of the driving things around special education is parents choosing, not just in autism, but in other areas of disability, to attend Lower Merion because they believe that programs and services will be of good quality. And we know a lot of anecdotal. I certainly have friends who've moved here who have children who, with Down syndrome and those other kinds of things. So we know that in some disability communities that we're seen as a place to go to get quality services. So those are parts of the drivers. The cost of services that are provided from outside the district are also increasing. So the therapies and programs and the kinds of training that we provide are also increasing. So I mean, that's the general scenario of what's going on in special education, and we've looked at 5 years, was it, of data along those lines, just to try to figure out if we're referring less kids for initial evaluation internally, why do we still have as many kids as we have with an IEP?
And just to add to that, we've also done some work around completing the continuum in certain realms. So for example, previously we didn't have as much emotional support available. So now we have itinerant and supplemental support through the entire K-12 continuum. And when you are building programs that way, that includes an increase in staff support, meaning we hire teachers, we hire instructional aides to actually staff those classrooms and appropriately implement students' IEPs. So looking at all of those things in the totality, you end up spending more money than previously. And with respect to your first question, the special ed plan comment period was actually open to the public, and all of the families received notification through various means. Particular outreach wasn't done to just the 504 parents or to the parents of students that receive special education supports and services, because we actually tried to touch every family in the district.
Great, thank you. I don't see anybody else who wanted to comment. Is that the case? Okay. So in accordance with the Sunshine Law, the Board of Directors met in executive and information sessions on April 21st was an executive session for personnel and real estate. April 24th was an executive session for litigation. April 28th, executive session, personnel, real estate, and litigation. So this evening. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.